Gardening for me is awesome.
Kathy Wetmore is the caretaker of one of the 48 garden plots outside of Blaine City Hall. Having recently moved from Wisconsin to be closer to her grandchildren, this is her first year as a Minnesota gardener. Pushkar is another one of the gardeners. Living in a townhouse, he had very few ways to take up gardening. But when the city newsletter came last winter, letting him know about the possibility of getting a garden plot, he signed up right away.
I was interested in gardening, but I live in a townhouse, so I don't have any land. And I said, let me try that out.
Both of these gardeners admit that they have learned many things from their plot neighbors.
I have learned so much here. It's unbelievable.
And with 48 plots, there are 48 different ways of doing things. And so the amount of knowledge that they're sharing is just huge when they get to know each other. So.
Sherri works in Blaine's Park and Recreation Department, and she oversees the garden. She gets people signed up for plots and makes sure that everyone follows the rules and keeps the space clean and weed-free.
And as long as you follow the basic rules of weeding and, taking care of it, you can do anything you want with it.
The city helps the gardeners in many ways. They provide water, they stake out the garden boundaries, and they lay down weed blocker between the plots. They also help the gardeners overcome Anoka County's sandy soil.
We do bring in topsoil every couple years and composted material we get from the Anoka County compost site. People are welcome to bring in extra dirt or extra amenities to neutralize their soil.
When it comes to what they grow, the sky is the limit. There's flowers, fruits, root vegetables, leafy greens, and even plants growing out of straw bales.
They have so many secrets about how to keep deer away, how to keep the other rodents away, or what you can do to keep the weeds so you don't have to weed as much. Cocoa beans are a big one.
Kathy, being new to this area, listened to some of the tips from her fellow gardeners. Her first radish crop turned out great, but once she planted for the second time, she learned that she may have missed the chance to give her radishes the best chance for success.
I started out with your basic peas, radishes, onions. Radishes did really good the first planting. The second planting, I learned about right side of the moon or dark side of the moon, some nonsense that I really don't do, and didn't read the Farmer's Almanac. I put them in the ground, and they say, talk to your plants. And I said, okay, listen, you plants, grow. That's all the talking they've gotten.
But, as she says, at 80 cents per pack of seeds, there isn't too much loss in missing out on one radish crop. A much bigger financial impact was seen with her tomatoes.
My biggest project here was growing tomatoes.
Okay.
Because last year, being the first year I'd never had a garden, I had to go buy tomatoes to can. And I spent almost $200 on tomatoes. So I really wanted to grow tomatoes.
And with vegetables now in peak season, the gardeners are not only eating more vegetables, but also saving an incredible amount of money at the grocery store.
July's bill was cut in half because instead of eating things like potato chips, we're eating green beans when we watch TV at night. And it was quite shocking, actually.
I had grand plans in the beginning to, keep all the count of how much I spend and then weigh all the food I get and then say per pound how many dollars I spend and then compare it to the supermarket. But I didn't follow through.
Even without exact numbers, he knows he's saving money.
When I go to grocery stores, I don't have to buy tomatoes. Till like last week, I didn't have to buy cauliflowers. I don't buy eggplants anymore.
But their experience hasn't been perfect. They have had some disappointments and some losses.
Well, the weeds have been a disappointment.
I've had one really bad experience in my garden. Come out and here's this pile of pea shucks, all stacked up nice in the corner of my garden, right there where I put the extra weeds. And I'm like, why would somebody eat the peas and not the beans? So I'm puzzling about this and I'm going in and, there were no peas, there were none. But the beans were perfectly fine. And my neighbor gardener came over and she said, oh, I see the raccoons got you last night. And I'm like, raccoons? And she knows more about wildlife than I do. So she showed me all the tracks, and there was a mother's footprint about this big and then 4 baby footprints. She's thinking 2 babies were there. So Mom was picking my peas and feeding them to the babies who were shucking them and having a feast.
Some community garden plots are victims of theft every year, whether it's passerbys who don't understand the rules or someone intentionally stealing the food. It's not always clear. But so far this year, Blaine's gardens have seen almost no losses to anything other than weather and wildlife.
I have been lucky. I didn't lose anything. I was terrified of deer. People were talking that deer would jump over your fence and whatnot, but I didn't lose anything. A few cherry tomatoes, 2 birds, but
Kathy lives in a nearby senior apartment building. Living in an apartment and not having a yard was one of the reasons she was excited to get a garden plot this year. But living in the apartment has also helped her share some of her more bountiful crops.
You can grow summer squash till it comes out your ears. And after a while, you really don't want to eat it anymore. So I take all the extra vegetables that I have, which I did with the radishes also, over to the senior complex. And we have a small table I set out, and then just a little sign, help yourself. And they last maybe 20 minutes.
Pushkar preserved some of his vegetables, but he's also used his abundance of crops as a reason to spend more time with friends.
some of it I put in the freezer. And more than that, I had a few friends come over a couple of times, and we had a harvest party. So basically, whatever is ready, we had carrots ready. So folks who friends who said, yeah, we love carrots, got them over, picked carrots, and then went home and cooked something out of those and had a harvest party.
Looking towards next year, most of the gardeners are planning on coming back, and maybe even learning more about gardening in the off-season.
They have master gardener lessons or classes. I didn't attend one this year, but I'm planning to attend one next year.
And they'll be back because they love what they do.
Anytime you can plant a little teeny seed that you can barely see and get something taller than yourself, it's kind of miraculous.
For North Metro TV News, Danica Peterson reporting.